Saturday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Saturday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Saturday. Saturday, bring it on.
Hello everyone, we're Superhero Stuff You Should Know, and if you think you know about superheroes and comic books, think again.
We got romance, we got action,
Romance.
we got comedy, we got everything you need, man. Come on down to Superhero Stuff You Should Know for all your superhero needs.
I don't know about this romance. What part are you talking about?
We've got all kinds of sketches, and then deep dives on top of that. Come on down to Superhero Stuff You Should Know.
Alright, so come on down to... Wait, why did I say come on down? To Superhero Stuff You Should Know.
We off?
30 seconds of carefree bliss.
Oof, like wind in your hair carefree.
Oh, like using Clorox Disinfecting All-Purpose Cleaner in the home carefree.
Yes!
Like dog slobbing on the coffee table and cleaning it with Clorox Carefree.
He's on a roll now.
Spit toothpaste on the faucet.
You got it. You got it.
Peanut butter on the light switch.
Oh, spritz, spritz.
Spritz, spritz. Clorox, man. Clean feels good.
Okay, we're back.
Use as directed.
Everybody, we're back with another episode of Horror Movie Night. You know, we've talked about some of the great classics lately. We did Troll 2, beloved movie. We did Darkman, beloved movie. We did Ghoulies, another beloved movie. And of course, everybody loves Bruiser from 2000. The movie that, and this shattered my brain a little bit, the movie that George Romero came back from a 7-year hiatus to make.
He should have waited another 2. You know, this movie fucking sucks.
See, I think that this is going to be really interesting because I knew that Scott was going to hate it.
Yeah.
I saw
I don't
give
hate
it
I just think it's fucking dumb. That's all.
I saw Kyle give it 4 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd, and I'm like right in the center with a 2.5 star rating.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, this is fine, but I'm not going to watch it again. But I don't know about you guys. I went into this super blind. Like, I had to research what the anniversary even was.
Yeah.
Because when this started, I thought, this is like a late 80s, early 90s, like,
it
hidden
really
gem,
looks
right?
like 1994. Like,
It
every bit
does.
of 1994. The clothing, the everything.
Floored that this was 2000.
Yeah, and I would venture to, you know, it was then released physically in 2001. So like I know that but the film itself, it's 2000. It does have those vibes. I mean, it is, and I think I would say that's part of it. Now, I don't, I think George Romero is this very interesting sort of blue collar, quite literal filmmaker at times that sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I think like with the Living Dead series, sometimes the timelessness of it all is the point of it. Now, Bruiser, I would, because of the content of Bruiser, which we'll get into, the timelessness works and doesn't work. It's a detriment at times, and then
you think
also
that this movie is timeless? Like, that is a crazy assertion.
I don't think that it's successfully timeless. I think that its intention is to be timeless. You're talking, we're talking about this. I mean, just even with like the mask and the villain and the idea of like approaching capitalism. I mean, there's a lot more that I took away from it in time and place than I think maybe intended. But Bruiser is a very, very interesting piece, and I'm so glad we get to talk about it today.
This is a Kyle pick, just for the listener.
Did you pick that one up?
Yeah. So I want to read one note that I wrote down, and then I think it's time for Kyle to really like dive in to the plot summary here. But this note I feel like sums up why I thought that this was about a 2.5-star movie, honestly. Mm-hmm. And I wrote, I feel like this movie is questionable in its opinion of women and housekeepers. Yeah. But the white face mask makeup is really fantastic throughout this movie. And like, I think that that's kind of what kept me going, is like, I love the look of him with this white featureless face prosthetic. But like half the time the plot beats, I was just like, what is happening? And not in like I'm confused, but I'm just like,
head shaking. This is so odd. Yeah.
If this was a 75-minute movie, home run. I feel like the fact that it's an hour and 40, it's like you're asking for a lot in that hour and 40 that you're not quite serving up. Like I had mentioned to Kyle that something that I do think is interesting is that the film right before this 7-year hiatus was The Dark Half. And I see some weird parallels between that and this movie. Like, not in a direct line, but it obviously has that, like, dual personality thing that it's like your easy pushover side and your, like, violent side. And them being kind of at war at each other. But, yeah, this is a really interesting one. So, Kyle, I think the floor is yours to walk us through
Time
Bruiser.
to explain yourself.
Well, I'm going to need a drink for that one. That is Whaler's Muse, because Henry, our main character, looks to Rosie, our other character, which we'll get into. It's a little
His
complicated relationship. Boss's wife, kind of a little bit like a muse. So that's what I ended up going
And
with.
also, he's kind of like a muse for her because she's the artist that makes the face mask.
Correct.
And I did Mad Tree Psychopathy because he goes psycho.
Very good. Very, very good. So Bruiser 2000. We watched it on Tubi. I think all of us watched it on Tubi.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It is.
You don't have a physical release of this, Kyle, in your collection?
Can I tell you that? So quick aside. So I found this movie. I was volunteering and I was 11 or 12 years old, and I was doing this thing that required like some public service hours. Right? I got arrested. I'm just kidding. I didn't get arrested. It was a public service, but like the idea was to get young adults or young people.
You don't have to explain yourself. I work with high schoolers. The amount of times that we're doing an event at the church and we have to include this will count to public service hours for all high school seniors. Like, it's just a thing, Kyle. You don't have to dance around it.
I didn't know that at 11 or 12. That felt young.
This is so that I don't go to jail, is what he thought at 11 years old.
I was working.
You were doing it preemptively. If you got arrested, you could tell the cop, like, but I did public service hours already.
I did this.
You have to let me go. I volunteered.
Preemptive hours. I'm a good person. What I did, I was working at this AIDS HIV nonprofit organization that was like a food bank and services and all sorts of things. But it was also, there was a library and a film library and things that you could sort of partake in that were available to our clients. And I remember one of my favorite things was to like go through the movie library, and it was a lot of screeners, like, flat, cardboard DVD screeners that were donated and stuff like that. It was the best. And Bruiser was one of them, along with, which I hope that we talk about at some point in time, Cut, which was a slasher with Molly Ringwald. I remember
Cut.
I don't know if it's actually worthwhile, but it was just one of the ones that
Kyle,
I remember.
Listen,
I picked Bruiser.
Yeah,
so.
You can make pretty much anything worthwhile with your conversation. You can. I can't.
Oh, shucks. But Bruiser, I saw Bruiser and rented, so to speak, Bruiser, in probably 2004. like 2003. So, and I haven't seen it since. And I think there is a Blu-ray release. I want to say like Arrow might have put it out a while ago, but I don't even think it's here in the States. It's really not. And flash forward, it was only released theatrically in France. It was direct to DVD in the States.
Did you get the?
Did you get the $15,000 at the box office in France on a $5 million budget? So, listen, it's
the other thing that kind of baffled me, and this is on Tubi a little bit, but the genre for this movie on Tubi was listed as comedy, horror, mystery. And and I don't
feel
know
like
if
it's
it
none of
successfully
those things.
checks any of those.
I think that the only thing, I think it's a thriller, honestly.
I would, and so that's
it's a supernatural thriller. It's a thriller based on a supernatural event occurring to a person, essentially. But that's it.
So the horror of it is a little bit lighter than what we would normally gravitate towards, but I thought it was an interesting one to talk about. So, Bruiser, 2000. Henry is a creative director, or I thought more of like a product manager for a magazine and a lifestyle magazine called Bruiser. And the boss of Bruiser, the head of Bruiser,
Peter Stormare,
who is incredible, is really, really solid. He is at his most Peter Stormare.
He's pushing the envelope so hard in this movie. It's nuts.
It should be stated that whatever we have to say about the quality of the movie Bruiser, there are very few actors or actresses in this film that are phoning it in. Like, I think, but he is the top of the pile.
Everybody that's in this movie was like, this is Romero's return, and they went for it, and I applaud them. It doesn't make a good movie, but it makes for a really interesting conversation.
No doubt. So. I'm sorry. I should say that Henry, we meet him first thing in the morning. He's listening to like a self-help shock radio show first thing in the morning, where somebody kills themselves on air. It's quite intense. And he starts to have this, and we start to see him having these violent visions and fantasies. He has an indifferent wife and an annoying dog, and his home and an unfinished house. His home life is a little iffy at this moment, but he has this job that he goes to at Bruiser magazine. He's got some coworkers who he's in cahoots with. He's got some coworkers who are absolute shit, and his boss Milo is incredibly abusive and misogynistic right out the gate. I
want to stop you for a second, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Because this leads to a question that I had, then thought I had answered, and then actually came back to me, right? Because you mentioned the guy killing himself on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But like 5 minutes after that, he also has a fantasy of grabbing a woman who pushed him and shoving her head under the train tracks.
Yes, yeah.
I am assuming that the suicide on the radio is in his head, just like those moments, which leads me to the question that we're going to debate, I think, throughout this movie of, did this event happen to him, or is this all in his head and he's like unleashing a bunch of anger? And the only part of me that thought, oh, maybe this isn't all in his head is because near the end of the movie, Rosie says to the police officer that he painted his face and that only she would be able to identify him. But then I'm like, what if he's still just wearing the plastic blank mask that she gave him, that she's about to give him in your... I want us to be thinking about that, because I do think that there's an interpretation of this movie where none of the supernatural stuff happened to him at all.
Yeah.
So, man, real quick, I want to understand what you mean by supernatural stuff, because I think you just mean the way that I watched the movie was that the kill scenes, like where he like puts the lady's head under the train track or under the train wheels, and where he who else did he kill?
His first two. Well, his first
two. Or his first suicide, yeah, those two, and I think there was one other one before he actually killed the housekeeper. Are you using the word? And I'm not. This isn't me being a shit. Yeah. This is I'm trying to understand.
I'm using supernatural the way someone might describe Big as a supernatural movie. That a unexplainable force of something caused something to happen. So like,
do
with
you
Big,
think that? Do you think
the face is real?
That's what I was going to say. Is do you think
thing.
that and for me, I watched this whole movie thinking that, and I was left with the question of, is the face where he can actually articulate and speak?
Yeah.
His face, like it's an American Psycho type thing where he thinks his face looks like that, and he just is walking around murdering people with that face. That's one way to look at it. The second way is that he's wearing the mask and speaking through it, the one that Rosie made for him, and people are like, he's just seeing it where he can articulate. Yeah. And the third is, which I had not thought about, which is where his face actually is transforming. Vote. I think we need to vote. So I think I know how Matt's gonna go. I'm ambivalent here. I'm not ambivalent. I'm agnostic. I don't know the answer. And Kyle, how did you?
I also don't know the answer.
Yeah.
Truly.
Well, I know. I think that it is a. I think that it is a combined thing where the mask is like we are seeing his POV, but he has not actually worn, like a mask has not adhered to his face. He has changed himself. Something has clicked in his brain where he is.
So you think that he's either wearing a mask or not wearing a mask at all, but
he is a changed man, but the mask is
but then the question becomes, if the articulating face is literally like his murderous alter ego, is he just walking around killing people with a mask on, or is he walking around killing people with a bare face? And I think the question is, like, Rosie would be like, I'm the only one that could know. Like, but it does lead credence to the fact that he's walking around with his bare face because he paints it skin colored later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Or is it him painting it, or is he becoming that person who he's pretending that, is he becoming that person that he's put the mask on for? I think it's what I'm saying, but I don't know if it's successful in approaching that. If it's too ambiguous, then we have a big question mark, which is why all three of us are thinking a different.
Well, that's the thing. It's too ambiguous.
That's why it's made $15,000 in a French box office. Like, it's not.
It's too ambiguous, and honestly, I wish they would cut. I wish that line where Rosie says, "I'm the only one who can recognize him because his face is painted up." If that line wasn't there, like, that line throws so many, like, throws such a wrench in, like, what could be a somewhat compelling thing. But I also feel like, I don't know, Romero, you got to tell us at a certain point, like, or at least hint at it, because right now the only hint that his face hasn't magically turned into this thing is that he's way more convinced people are going to freak out when they see his face than anyone actually freaks out when they see his face. Like, that's the only reason why I started thinking
nobody really sees his face.
Yeah.
At least somebody who specifically knows him, besides Rosie, who is just seeing him for who he is.
Yeah.
Because they are in cahoots in some way. They are the people who are closest and who know what they're each going through. But nobody else, even Tom, I think his name is Tom, the coworker.
Jimmy, his coworker.
Jimmy. Yeah. Jimmy is also sort of like not convinced / like unsure of who he is, but he's heeded his warning.
It's so funny, and I hope that this isn't stealing anyone's double feature, but Scott, you had mentioned American Psycho. It's crazy that this came out the same year as American Psycho, because it feels so much like a low-budget response to an American Psycho.
I agree.
But I will say American Psycho is a very odd movie when you think about it in the context of being it's coming out in 2000, because, like, for me, 1985 or whatever, when it's supposed to be placed, feels really fucking far away in 2000, right? Because 15 years when you are, 18
that was
years
when
old.
We started Reddit Horror Club in 2025 terms.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, that hurts.
Whoa.
That actually really, really hurts. So, okay, what I'm trying to get at, though, is that, thinking about American Psycho. So first of all, American Psycho was a book first, right? And it took
and
years.
A famous book at that.
It's very famous book of its time. And then it took years for it to become a script and get shot. And so it is weird to think about it in 2025 being like, wow, these came out the same year, and one feels like it's authentic and the other one feels like it's kind of grasping at the coattails, even though it can't possibly because of the fact that it's the same year. But I think that the concept is very similar because I mean, if you think about it, American Psycho, the book, was 15 years old when the movie came out, or however long it was, you know?
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking of it as American Psycho comes out, and then a bunch of studios quickly try to push out their American Psycho. But
the lens, I know that. I know what you're getting at.
But no, I'm reframing it, though, because I should be looking at through the lens of, hey, they're finally making a movie of American Psycho, and this is like a Armageddon, Deep Impact, Ants, Bugs Life type situation of like, let's try to do our version of that same type of concept and release it as closely to American Psycho, just in case that movie's a huge hit. We have this like ready to go,
and then you can make $19,000 in France.
I would be.
This movie's not even big in France.
It's not even big in France. It's true. I would be really curious to know more. I did my preliminary research for doing this background, but it is a movie that interests me more and more on the tails of watching it, you know, coming off of talking about it here and wondering if there is sort of any championing of this film. And I know that it's not. I know that it is not the highest quality film. It's not like we just discovered the American Psycho that should have been the American Psycho.
No,
right?
this isn't even like when we discovered Out of the Dark.
Out of the Dark,
yeah. No, truly, it's. I know that it's not that, but at the same time, you know, American Psycho is that reflection on the past, while Bruiser is in the shit,
the present,
trying to reflect upon, you know, a capitalistic sort of like go-getter, like spend your money, invest your money, get fucked over, and what are you going to do about it when you lose everything in the year 2000? Like, it's like, you know, so I know that it is, I think that our listeners can understand where our excitement comes from.
Sorry,
but,
I just completely detracted from. He's still just getting on the train to go to work at the point of
we haven't.
No, this is what I was. This was going to come up at some point in time. Like, I wanted to talk about this, particularly. I think the American Psycho connection is important, and I think that it's something to look at. Honestly, like I wanted to talk about it at some point in time, but yes. We get to his place of work. We find out that Milo is an absolute piece of shit. Milo's wife Rosie also works there, and she's not super stoked about the work environment. But her and Henry have an interesting connection, and I think Henry at some point in time almost breaks it to Rosie that like this could be more than a friendship, because it seems like everybody is not in their right place as far as their relationships go. We find this out when we go to a company picnic at Milo's big, fun, fancy pool party, in where he gets an absolutely exquisite hand job from Henry's wife, Janine, while Rosie is showing Henry all her masks, her artwork. And Henry is just like, I don't, you know, he's this. I was describing it to a coworker of mine where I was like, Henry is if you were to pitch this to somebody, you would say that Henry is a beta male in this alpha male environment. But when in actuality, he's not a beta male. He's just a guy that is in an oppressive environment where people are not respecting each other. And that's not an alpha beta situation. That is just like you are in the wrong industry, brother.
Well, he has this really great and telling line near the end of the movie when he reveals himself to Rosie and kind of like basically confesses to the crimes he's committed and the crime he plans to commit next. But like he walks around this mansion of a house that her and Milo live in and says something along the lines of, I'm the guy living in the unfinished house trying to build something that looks like this. Mm-hmm. Like, and it's kind of that, like, I think that I hate the terms beta and alpha, but for the sake of argument, that he's a beta that desperately wants to be an alpha. He wants to be part of that scene, and it's not who he is, but he wants to be looked at and respected the way that Milo is. And it doesn't help that his boss is an absolute douchebag and has like no fear of publicly shaming him about things.
Yeah.
So like,
but I do think that's where like the mask comes into play, because it is this idea that it's not who he wants to be, but in order to get out of it, he has to make these kind of oppressive and violent maneuvers. But then it also seeps into his blood, like it seeps into his skin, it seeps into his blood, like it seeps into his being, that he's now decided to make these decisions that are not super healthy decisions. Murder, that is not a great choice.
But it's also important to stress that like Rosie gives him this blank face mask and tells him to like draw anything that represents who he is, and he can't come up with anything.
Yeah,
he can't do it. So he's in such this drive to be someone that he inherently isn't.
He's in too deep.
Yeah, that it breaks his brain to a certain point.
Yeah, 100%. When he's given and proposed the question of who are you, he can't figure it out.
Because all three of us, like, given that task, we would draw something. Scott would draw something related to music. You would draw something related to film. I would draw a microphone or podcasting. Like, there's something that's
at least one thing.
There's something so embedded in who we are that it's what we define ourselves by, and he is trying to define himself by his success at work, which is like the biggest. If there's a message to this movie, it's kind of the message that every anti-capitalist says, which is like, don't be married to your fucking job, because your job sure as fuck ain't married to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can go in on those Saturdays and that overtime, but that's not going to matter when it comes time to lay off and you're just the most recent hire in the office and you're gone.
I wanna say one thing that and I don't disagree with anything you just said, Matt, but I find it interesting that a lot of this conversation about, I mean, we're coming at it from, cis het white male perspective, and that's fine, because that's really what the movie is this white guy who is mediocre, and he is like put in a position where, so there are two things I want to say. He's put in a position where he sees no other way but violence, right? And that's kind of like a tale as old as time thing that happens a lot in movies. But one thing I want to say is, like, when Matt, you were like, if we were given Rosie were to do a face mask of us and each of us, and say, paint it with who you are, and you specifically chose things that we produce. And I find it interesting, and I'm not saying this is a negative thing at all. I find it interesting from a culture perspective that what we do is how we default to defining ourselves, and it has nothing to do with how we love people in our lives or how we treat others, how we are stewards for animals or the earth. Yeah. It's literally like, oh, Kyle makes movies, Scott makes music, Matt podcasts. And I think that is not as dehumanizing by any stretch of the by any stretch of the perspective as being like, oh, I'm an analyst. Oh, I do this for a business, whatever. Like, I'm not. So I just find it interesting. That's all.
My perspective of that was also, though, that like, I was naming things that I think, not even that I think, that we actively do, even though it doesn't necessarily fill our pockets with cash.
Right.
Versus,
No, I get that. Like, I totally get that. I just found it interesting from like a sociological perspective, because it kind of doesn't answer the question of, like, we're feeding our souls with our art, right? But at the same time, like, who are we? And that's kind of the whole, I think that, like, in a really forest for the trees perspective, that's what this movie is about, is like, what defines you as a human. And I think that it's clunky because Romero is coming from a much older perspective, even in 2000. But the thing I really want to point out beyond that is, because like all this is about kind of like toxic masculinity, right? Like the whole subtext of this movie is toxic masculinity, because Milo is fucking every woman he can, and he says something to the effect of like, sex is the best thing in the world, it's the only thing that matters, more or less. And then he's like, you can fuck on a bed, but have you ever fucked on a $40,000 table? And I'm like, that's just like so cravenly capitalistic and hedonistic. And
but also fascinatingly, when the police ask him if Rosie could have been the one that killed
He says no, but it's because it's misogynistic in a different way, because he says no woman could kill. But the other thing I want to say is that I find it interesting that, like, you know, Romero really was ahead of his time in so many aspects of his like liberalism, and I mean that from a moralistic perspective, so nobody in the listenership, please don't come at me for this. But I find it so interesting that even for someone as progressive in his mindset as he was, he still has the scene, which happens in so many of these movies, where a woman tries to talk the killing man out of killing and is like, you don't have to do this. Like, why do women have to do that emotional labor to save a man from killing other people? These are all just rhetorical questions. I find it very interesting. This movie is almost not worth this conversation because it is very cheesy.
It's so
but
mediocre.
I know, but I also disagree. It's totally worth this conversation.
Well,
like, that's
Scott,
the point, but
Scott,
it's not.
What would we be watching this if it wasn't Romero? That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
you know?
well, Scott, listen,
fair.
you're
That's
saying a lot of
fair.
things that check a lot of boxes here for something, right? Because we're talking about a movie that's about a mediocre white man that wants to seem powerful, toxic masculinity. And of course, Michael Graves is in this movie.
Oh my god, dude! So first, the way that it started was that when they get to the costume ball, which is literally a Halloween
masquerade!
show. Yeah, it's just a Halloween show. But they get there, and I'm like, oh, Scream from Famous Monsters is playing. I can fuck with this. And then I see Michael Graves, and I see Jerry Only, and I see the whole band. And I'm like, wow. And then I'm like. Then they play another song, and I'm like, I don't recognize this song. And they play a song, and I recognize the song. And I'm like, okay, I got to go through the credits and see. There were like 4 Misfits songs, one of which was actually called Bruiser. They wrote a song for this movie.
Yeah, dude.
So, I mean,
the
it's
$15,000 from France covered that song. It was very helpful.
And it was really rare because the Misfits never write songs about obscure movies. So, like,
I mean, they
were really going out on a limb when they wrote Bruiser.
50s movies, right? Like, they don't. You know, Bruiser really stands out as you know, like, if people want to, like, if you need a reason beyond Michael Graves as a person being a Proud Boy piece of shit for a reason to hate him, like, he definitely sold out Misfits, because we're not allowed to call them the Misfits when it was this iteration. By the way, it is Misfits only. There's no the. It's just funny. He's definitely sold them out because, you know, whoever put this movie out was like, "Hey, Misfits, do you want to do a song? Do you want to get paid to write a song for this?" And he was like, "Fuck yeah, write the check. I don't care. I don't need to see the movie. Sight unseen."
if you thought-
Also, make this movie named literally anything else, because, like, why is the
Bad name.
magazine called?
Yeah,
Bruiser.
we never
Bruiser.
get an
It
answer
doesn't
to
make
that
sense.
The magazine
first
is called
question.
Bruiser, and it's just unhelpful to any. anything
but then,
in
but
this
and
movie.
also he doesn't beat people to death. He's very he's very
I
weapons
don't even
and
know what
hands
the
off
magazine's
based.
about.
Yeah.
You know,
The
like, we're talking
magazine
about
is
cover
basically
girls
like-
on this, but it's not like
I love-
It's like not. I guess it's like Maxim. I guess
It's
like,
Speaking
maybe
of the
that's
cover
okay,
girls,
all
there's
right.
that scene at the party where the girl is completely naked.
Yeah.
And someone's interviewing her, and they say, like, "So who made this?" And she goes, "My parents." Funniest line in the whole movie. Funniest line in the
There
whole
are
movie.
so many out of pocket lines in this movie, and like there's one part at the masquerade where a guy who's dressed up like a linebacker goes up to, like, sexually assault one of the go-go dancers, and she kicks him in the fucking face, and and in the most deadpan, dry voiceover, like it's definitely 80 yards, she just goes extra point or something like that. Is that what did she say?
no, she's
like field goal or something.
Wait. I wrote it down. She says, extra point. Yeah. She just, like, says it. It's the weirdest. And also, like, they were the cops. Oh, we've completely blown past the fact that Tom Atkins is the detective that's, like, coming after.
Also fantastic. Like, not like I expected any less, but he walks out It is like
calls every woman a dame throughout
Yes,
the rest
yes,
of the
that's what I was
movie.
about to say. It's
Any
like she was
woman he's
not
talking
whacked,
about
whacked
is
by
dame.
another dame. You know, like crazy.
but it's
Every
almost like
character is
his
crazy in
character.
this.
It's like his character from Night of the Creeps, just like then moved into this movie. Like,
Yeah,
Yes,
it's not.
it
It's
is
not
the
any
exact
different.
same role.
No.
Yeah, no, man, we have gotten. This is
No, I think that this conversation has covered a lot of key moments, and I'm gonna work myself backwards. Okay.
Okay.
So
And I will
at this
shut up.
party where Misfits are playing, Henry kills Milo with a laser beam above the party.
as you
And
do.
everybody,
shoots his dick
and
off
everybody
first.
What was
Yeah.
that?
He shoots his dick off first.
He shoots his
And
yeah,
he's like,
yes,
this
thank
is
you.
really happening.
Yeah, shoots his dick off with a laser and then shoots him in the skull. And then everybody's pretty stoked because they don't quite know that it's an actual death. They just think that Milo is swinging over this party while Misfits play for a 4-song set. At some point in time, Tom Atkins has been trailing Rosie, Milo's wife, thinking that she might be is a suspect, is a person of interest in this. And Milo is looking like the Phantom of the Opera. Just shout out Phantom of the Podpra on Geekscape Network now. He's looking like Phantom of the Opera. Rosie is also dressed in a white mask and a full
He's
cloak.
dressed like Zorro. You plug.
They're dressed
freak.
like Zorro. They're dressed
Oh,
like
and it's
Zorro.
also
They're at a
Milo. It's
masquerade.
what's the main guy's name?
Henry.
Henry.
Yeah. Henry's dressed like Zorro. Rosie dresses like
I
Zorro.
saw it as
and they-
Podpara too. Don't worry, Kyle.
Yeah, thank you. But they all, at some point in time, everybody in the party claims to have, I did it, and it's this beautiful thing. But there's a lovely, like, sort of masquerade, Halloween party, full type of thing at the end of this movie, which you listeners know I love. Before that, yes, we have Tom Atkins is our cop who is trailing. There is there's an accountant, Henry's accountant named
Jimmy.
Oh, I thought his name was Jimmy. Jimmy.
Jimmy
who
is the
stole
accountant.
$30,000 and fucked Henry's wife.
And let Henry's wife steal more money, right?
Yes, yeah. He was in cahoots with Henry's wife, Janine. They're just, sucking Henry dry, and Henry doesn't know any better. And finally, he gets his comeuppance. Janine, before that, which is sort of the inciting incident after Henry gets his white mask, once Henry and Rosie both tangentially find out that they are having adulterous relationships, Milo and Janine having an adulterous relationship on the $40,000 conference table. Rosie snaps a picture, cha-ching. Milo chases her down. Henry, in the white mask, throws Janine out of a window, hanging her from an extension cord. And that is sort of the inciting incident of like, oh, Henry's on a tear. He's got this newfound power. He's going to right all the wrongs, but is he going to do it? And then, we end up at the masquerade night in the club. And that's sort of our climactic moment. And there's this really fun sort of aside that like Henry gets away. He, grows out his hair, and he's just taken a mailboy job at an office, and he's already been through it, and he knows what these high-end, business workers are like, and all these really aggressive bosses. He's going to show them who's boss at some point in time, but not yet. He's going to hold on to his cards. He turns around at the end of the movie. He's got the white mask on, and this crazy version of Take On Me by Aha plays as the credits roll. And
pop
that is
punk
Bruiser,
cover.
and I cannot believe we've talked this. I was hoping that this would be the case. I was praying, and God listened to my prayer. And we got
Dear
to talk about
George
Bruiser.
Romero, please hear my prayer.
Please,
Let us talk for this
Please
long.
hear my prayer. I think Bruiser is a really interesting watch in 2025. I do. And I was not sure that was the case when I picked it for this, but I was just sort of going on a whim. Again, yes, Romero was my entry point to even picking this movie. Like my recollection of it is super vague. I remember this mask. I remember the poster. I don't remember much else. And watching it through a 2025 lens, with what's going on now, I think even though it's on the nose and maybe a little clunky, I think it's certainly worth the watch. Even though, again, yes, it's more of a thriller. It's more of a crime thriller with some psychological thriller, I think is a fair term for it. It's not super horror centric, even though Misfits Romero and its crazy white mask and some blood are involved. But that's Bruiser.
Today, the beverage aisle looks a lot different than it used to. America's beverage companies are working together. We're delivering the options everyone wants. In fact, nearly 60% of beverages Americans buy have zero sugar. You'll find more variety than ever, including more of your favorites, now available with zero sugar. You'll also find more sizes and clear calorie information on the front of every can, bottle, and pack. We know when it comes to finding balance, the more choices, the better.
Hello everyone, we're Superhero Stuff You Should Know, and if you think you know about superheroes and comic books, think again.
We got romance. We got action.
Romance?
We got comedy. We got everything you need, man. Come on down to Superhero Stuff You Should Know for all your superhero needs.
I don't know about this romance. What part are you talking about?
We've got all kinds of sketches, and then deep dives on top of that. Come on down to Superhero Stuff You Should Know.
All right, so come on down to... Wait, why did I say come on down? To Superhero Stuff You Should Know.
Are you a fan of young adult novels?
Have you ever wondered the stories behind the people who wrote your favorite young adult novels?
Then join author Eric J. Brown
And Alyssa Lube of Netflix's The Circle.
every other Tuesday on YAOK.
Available on all podcasting apps.
Woo!
All right, well, Kyle, if you were having people over to watch Bruiser, what would you also have those people watch?
I mean, I really, really could not stop thinking about American Psycho. I couldn't.
Okay.
And I think we discussed it a lot. I wrote it down. Like, I didn't have a lot of other, things that I don't think I'd want to watch it. I just think the package of it all is so interesting to me. The same time period that the film's made in the same, so American Psycho is my double feature.
I got two options, Scott. So how about you go first?
I'm gonna go with Hellraiser Hellworld because also a Kyle pick, and the parties feel similar.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm gonna go with a movie that I'm sure I've picked as a double feature a million times, but it involves a guy getting pushed around. No one respects him. He starts wearing a mask.
Oh, yep.
He kills a couple people. Phantom of the Paradise, baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
See? So, Matt, eat your words about saying that this is not a Podpera adjacent film. There we go.
As soon as I said that to Kyle, knowing that I was about to pick Phantom of the Paradise.
God bless.
Feature. The other one that I had written down, which I would have a good time and you two would be miserable, was Fade to Black.
That's funny because I actually thought that was going to be your second. Yes, that makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah, guy pushed around, making a comeback, whatever. Kyle.
Yeah.
Word on the street, there's some film festivals that you may want to talk about.
Yeah. So Salem Horror Fest is coming up at the end of April, beginning of May. It starts April 30th and it goes until May 4th in Salem, Massachusetts. I'm the associate producer of a film called So Fades the Light, which is a coming-of-age road movie thriller about a young woman who has escaped a cult 15 years ago. It's a right-wing gun cult. And she's escaped, but she is on the road alone, seeking closure. So she travels back to the compound, but at the same time, the reverend or the leader of that cult is also getting out of prison and is also out on the prowl and clearly seeking maybe not closure, but something else. And it's got an excellent soundtrack. It's really exciting. It will be out this summer. I don't know the details at the time of this recording, but I do know that if you are in New England, Salem Horror Fest is amazing. Ashley Lawrence is going to be there this year. There's going to be some amazing short films, amazing features, and So Fades the Light plays on Saturday, May 3rd. Saturday, May 3rd at 2:30. Through Salem Horror Fest. I don't know if it's just like a full badge ticket or if you can eventually do like single screening tickets, but yeah, it's fantastic. So Salem Horror Fest, So Fades the Light is playing. I will be there all weekend. I hope you come check it out. The filmmakers get super rad, the star and producer Kylie Lotz, who was also in Ouchie, I believe will be there, and we'd love to see you.
Yes, I would love to one day make it to Salem Film Festival. It would be a lot of fun. I think it'd be a fun horror movie night road trip if we could ever figure that
Salem
one out.
is just
for
so
the three
great.
of us.
I love that town.
Yeah.
Well, if you love our show as much as Scott loves Salem, then why don't you go to hmmpodcast.com? It's your one-stop shop for all of our stuff. You can get some cool merch, but we have even more cool exclusive merch if you go to hmnpodcast.dasherly. Is that correct? .com? That's the URL?
Yeah,
nailed
yes,
it
sir.
without even looking. Also, if you want to support the show, see our beautiful faces, hear bonus conversations or early episodes, go to patreon.com /HMN podcast. We love to hear from you. If you want to join our newsletter, hit us up as well at our email, hmnpodcast@gmail.com. Now, Kyle, this is the last question I have for you today.
Yeah.
What are you really into right now? What have you been watching, listening to, reading, etc.?
So I this is an older movie. This is 2002, but I think a couple weeks ago I had talked about watching Roller Coaster just as a sort of a teen life thing. I revisited White Oleander. I don't know if anybody had seen this or read the book.
No.
It's
all I know is the band, or no, I guess that's Oleander.
Yeah, no, the White Oleander, Michelle Pfeiffer and Alison Lohman, Renee Zellweger, and Robin Wright Penn, or at least Robin Wright Penn are in it. Robin Wright Penn at the time are in it, and it's about Michelle Pfeiffer is the mother. She's an artist in California. She is the mother of Alison Lohman's character, who was a young teen, a young adult, and at some point in time, Michelle Pfeiffer's character kills a man and goes to prison, and that puts Alison Lohman's life. And forgive me for not knowing the characters' names, but she bounces around from sort of house to house, like foster house to foster house, while also her mother from prison and also just deep-seated internal whatever is manipulating, both actively and passively manipulating how Alison Lohman goes about living this life now without her mom, but also with her mom, who has instilled this sort of difficult independence in her too early. And it's a familial drama. It's based on a book written by Janet Fitch. It's a really, really lovely film, I think, about familial stuff that I think a lot of people in our generation are coming across in their lives. This is clickbaity, but oftentimes I see this article pop up about people going no contact with their parents and why that's happening so much now. And I don't think that it's not true. I think that it's an active realization, but I don't think that it is necessarily the way that people are treated is not necessarily new. I think that there is a lens in which we see how we are raised and how we are treated and how society happens that is difficult to address. I think White Oleander is a great sort of slice of life instance of that. The performances are great. The attempt, this beautiful attempt at connection with a young woman, I think is really great. White Oleander, it's a California blonde, white, lily white family. It's very Caucasian, but I think that it's also a really telling story. And I thought it was a really solid performances. My wife Carly had read the book. She loved the book. And it was really cool to revisit that again in the lens of what I was saying a couple weeks ago, these teen dramas that just have a lot going on. White Oleander is worth the watch if you kind of like a deeper, heavier family thing from 2002. Let's not forget that it is 2002 and it has that, when I say lens that I'm looking something through, I'm talking about a physical lens. It just has these this soft edges of everything is glowing, even when Michelle Pfeiffer's in prison. Her hair is just this beautiful blonde, like it's just glowing. It's a good movie. So that's what I watched.
Hell yeah.
This is probably so silly, but I rewatched *Malignant*, and it's just so fun. It's
that's one that I'm excited for us to hit the 10 years on. That'll be a fun fucking episode.
I mean, I remember liking it when I saw it, when it was, I mean, that was what, 7 years ago, I want to say. And I understood what it was doing, you know, like I understood that it was really trying to be giallo and hit a lot of these kind of earmarks of that subgenre. And rewatching it now after all these recent years of us watching giallo for the show and having conversations about it and getting a better understanding of like what I'm seeing, it's just kind of a pitch perfect little slice, you know, like it's such a great love letter. And I mean, that's a James Wan movie, isn't it?
Yeah,
like
it's
he's
one
produced.
It's one of his better movies.
Wow. You really one-upped yourself there. But yeah, I mean, I know that a lot of his movies can be real stinkers for us because we're not the target audience, you know, like we're not teenagers. But that movie just hits, and it's just so fun and so silly and very over the top. So it feels kind of like a good little addition to the conversation about Bruiser.
I mean, honestly, comparatively to other James Wan movies, it's in the same realm as like what Dead Silence was. You know what I mean? Like it's perfect fodder for us. I like when James Wan leans in to his like B movie loves way more than when he leans into his gore fest stuff. And like there's a happy medium there too, for sure. But like Dead Silence and Malignant, top tier. Top tier in the James Wan verse for me. I'm going to talk about a book that I haven't quite finished yet. I'm about halfway through it, but I'm really enjoying it, which is nice because I've had like I had like a couple book run where I was like underwhelmed by what I was reading. So like to have a book that I'm like excited to sit down and knock out a couple chapters when I get a chance is exciting again. This was a guest early on YAOK. I'm 99% sure that it's their debut novel by Quinn Diacon Furtado. And the book that she put out is called The Lilies. So the way that this was pitched to us was a YA novel about an all-girls school with supernatural secrets. And I was like, okay. So it's kind of so the first like 4 chapters we see the perspective of the 5 characters that we're going to be following, and every single one of them is acting very weird about a missing student on campus named Charlotte who hasn't been seen since Founders Day. And 3 of the 5 are in a secret society called the Lilies, while the other 2 are former roommates of this girl. So there is an incident that happens at the school. They're on lockdown, and they wander into this closet, and the closet essentially acts as a time machine that forces them to relive Founders Day. It's forcing each one of them to live their worst moment of their life, and all of their worst moments all happened on Founders Day and tied to this missing girl. Whoa, so, like, I'm just kind of very much intrigued in it. And like they talk about this concept of, I'm only in the first time that they're doing the memory, but they stress like you have to live through the memory. Mm-hmm. Like if you try to change anything about the memory, the loop starts over and is going to continually force you to relive the memory, but that there's the smell of decay and rot every time that you try to deny what's happening, and if you deny it enough times, you'll just be like eternally trapped in reliving the worst moment of your life for eternity. So you just have to like push forward and face it. So I'm like, this is such a cool little thing that I actually think some of the listeners of our podcast would enjoy. So I'm liking it. I maybe I'll report back on a future episode after I finish it. to say more, but yeah, I started it yesterday and I'm 150 pages into it. So to say that it's a page turner is a bit of an understatement.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just wanted to celebrate that one real quick. And talking about celebration, I mean, I don't know if this movie that we talk about next week is as beloved as Bruiser, but I think we're going to keep rolling with the anniversary films. So stay tuned for more Horror Movie Night.
You're so cool, Bruiser.
Damn, that's good.
This episode is brought to you by Honda. Introducing the all-new, all-terrain Honda Passport Trail Sport, the most off-road capable Honda Passport Honda has ever dreamt up. The Passport features increased ground clearance, roof rails on all trims, and available specially developed all-terrain tires. And you'll stay comfortable with tri-zone climate control and available features like heated and ventilated front seats and a panoramic moonroof. Learn more at honda.com/passport.
Hello everyone, we're Superhero Stuff You Should Know, and if you think you know about superheroes and comic books, think again.
We got romance. We got action.
Romance?
We got comedy. We got everything you need, man. Come on down to Superhero Stuff You Should Know for all your superhero needs.
I don't know about this romance. What part are you talking about?
We've got all kinds of sketches, and then deep dives on top of that. Come on down to Superhero Stuff You Should Know.
All right, so come on down to... Wait, why did I say come on down? To Superhero Stuff You Should Know.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.